There is more conservative infighting right now than at any point in my life, all because of a slew of remarks made by former President Donald Trump just 9 weeks away from the general election. Is there any way to unite the conservative base while assembling an alliance of conservatives and moderates to defeat the liberals? Let's talk about it. Welcome to episode 48. I'm Blake Watson, and this is We the Free. One of the best ways you can help our show, other than by sharing today's episode, is by picking up some We the Free merch at wethefreeshow.com. You can be the Salt and Light you are meant to be by wearing the Salt and Light shirt or by sipping your coffee from the Salt and Light mug, or you can sport the God Bless America shirt and the We the Free crest tee. We've got stickers and a Smells Like Freedom candle, so check out our merch today at wethefreeshow.com. In the Second World War, the Allied forces planned a daring invasion to free Europe from the grip of a terrible enemy. Their target was the coast of Normandy in northern France, where they would land and begin their journey to victory. But the enemy was cunning and strong, with many soldiers, resources, and fortifications. The Allies knew they couldn't win by sheer force alone. They needed to be smart and clever. So, the Allies devised a plan to trick the enemy. They created a phantom army with inflatable tanks, dummy aircrafts, fake radio transmissions, and false reports. Operation Fortitude. The goal was to make the enemy believe that the invasion would happen far from Normandy, 150 miles away at Pas de Calais, where the enemy had its strongest defenses. So, for that reason, in that part of France, the German army was amassing and organizing their strongest defenses with troops and resources, but the real invasion was happening 150 miles away. The Allies used only the necessary forces to hold the enemy's attention elsewhere, conserving their strength for the decisive attack. They knew they had to make every soldier, every piece of equipment count. As the day of the invasion approached, the enemy was still convinced that the real attack would come at Calais. They kept their best troops and resources there, waiting for a battle that would never come. On the morning of June 6, 1944, the Allies launched their attack on the beaches of Normandy, Operation Overlord. The enemy, caught by surprise and with their forces spread too thin, struggled to defend against the overwhelming might of the Allied soldiers. The plan worked. Why did it work? Well, it's more than just deception and trickery. It's one of the 9 principles of war that the United States Armed Forces uses. It's called economy of force. That is the principle that all available combat power should be used in the most effective way possible while allocating a minimum of essential combat power to secondary efforts. By using economy of force, the Allies ensured that their main attack was powerful and effective, breaking through the enemy's defenses and beginning the liberation of Europe. So the Allies taught the world a valuable lesson. Sometimes the key to victory isn't just about how much strength you have, but how wisely you use it. And more broadly, that there's strength in numbers. Last week's episode was practically prophetic. The Democratic National Convention ended on Thursday, August 22nd. That's the night that Kamala Harris formally accepted the nomination of her party. During her speech, she said the following, which has been a central focus of her campaign and the mainstream media in this election cycle.
But tonight, in America, too many women are not able to make those decisions. And let's be clear about how we got here. Donald Trump handpicked members of the United States Supreme Court to take away reproductive freedom. And now he brags about it. In his words, quote, "I did it and I'm proud to have done it," end quote. Well, I'll tell you, over the past 2 years, I've traveled across our country, and women have told me their stories. Husbands and fathers have shared theirs. Stories of women miscarrying in a parking lot, developing sepsis, losing the ability to ever again have children, all because doctors are afraid they may go to jail for caring for their patients. Couples just trying to grow their family, cut off in the middle of IVF treatments. Children who have survived sexual assault, potentially being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. This is what's happening in our country because of Donald Trump. And understand, he is not done. As a part of his agenda, he and his allies would limit access to birth control, ban medication abortion, and enact a nationwide abortion ban with or without Congress. And get this, he plans to create a national anti-abortion coordinator and force states to report on women's miscarriages and abortions. Simply put, they are out of their minds.
Since the day that Kamala Harris was undemocratically selected by Democrat elites to be the Democratic nominee without the democratic process of voting, I've told you that their campaign strategy could be reduced to one word or one thing: lying. I've told you that is their strategy. They will lie, smile, and wave their way, if they can, into the Oval Office. In other words, they will propagandize the American people to bamboozle their way into power. None of what she said is true. None of what she just said about Trump is true. Trump has never said any of those things. And you know, she said this elsewhere in her speech, but they've tried to desperately connect Trump to Project 2025, which he has nothing to do with. Even Project 2025 doesn't even make any of these claims. In episode 44, I told you that Project 2025 doesn't even call for a federal ban on abortions. They do call for the abolition of federal funding for abortions to be replaced by alternatives like adoption. The project says nothing about contraception. The project says nothing about in vitro fertilization. Go read it for yourself. In fact, Donald Trump, though he's not quite said the opposite, he would disagree with almost everything she just said, and with what they're saying at every campaign stop. Even during the debate with Joe Biden 3 months ago, Donald Trump disagreed with what Kamala Harris said 2 weeks ago. When asked about contraceptive pills specifically, Trump said the following.
Turned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion pill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives. Everybody wanted it back, religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Former President Trump wisely utilized his time there to address the subject broadly. Instead of only responding to Dana Bash's question about the contraceptive pill. So let's consider what President Trump said and also fact check some things. First, Dana Bash correctly states that mifepristone and other contraceptive drugs account for over 60% of all abortions in the United States. Second, the Supreme Court did not approve the abortion pill. They declined to hear a case about mifepristone, citing the case lacked standing. That's not in any way the Supreme Court approving of the abortion pill. And I can assure you, that battle is not over. In fact, the overturning of Roe v. Wade and other abortion case laws have enabled states to either ban or hinder the use or unsupervised use, or even the selling or transporting of the abortion pill. And Trump says, I will not block it, referring to the abortion pill. He won't block it. Third, liberals continue to attack Trump on his exaggerative point that everybody wanted Roe v. Wade overturned, that all the experts said it should be done. Look, no one hears this and thinks, wow, everybody wanted Roe overturned? No, we all know that Trump makes almost all of his points by exaggeration. He's an embellisher. He's hyperbolic. And he's endlessly grandiose. I had the best administration. We had the lowest numbers ever. Look at my buildings. They're the most beautiful buildings. Try my Trump steaks. They're the juiciest steaks you've ever had. I have the biggest hands you've ever seen. I have the most presidential hair in the history of America. Hey, everybody wanted Roe v. Wade overturned. He doesn't even necessarily mean that the majority of people wanted Roe kicked out. He means what we discussed last week. Roe was an incredibly weak legal case in a house of cards. All that it took was a little gust of wind, and there it went. So yes, that means for 50 years there were multiple Supreme Court cases that legal experts and scholars could plainly see the problems with. It was bound and determined to see itself out, and anyone with any legal expertise understands that. This is what Trump means when he says everybody wanted Roe overturned, on top of the fact that many of us did. Fourth, Trump has never changed his position on abortion. He has stated it over and over. He repeatedly criticized DeSantis for the 6-week ban in Florida. He felt it was too short. Earlier this year in April, he said Arizona's abortion ban goes too far because it basically banned all abortions. What is his position? Well, it's the one that he's always held. He supports the three exemptions: rape, incest, and to protect the life of the mother. Now he says he shares that opinion with Ronald Reagan. That's misleading because Reagan campaigned in 1980 proposing a constitutional amendment to ban abortion. However, when he ran for re-election in 1984, he maintained a strong anti-abortion stance favoring restrictions, not a complete ban. So he never got it done. But listen to this. On his way out of office, he wrote this to Congress in 1988. I am pleased to transmit for your immediate and favorable consideration the President's Pro-Life Act of 1988. This important legislation carries out my commitment to protect the rights of unborn children by prohibiting any federal dollars from being used to fund abortion unless a mother's life would be physically endangered by carrying the fetus to term. Since the legalization of abortion on demand in 1973, he's talking about Roe, there have been an estimated 21 million abortions in this country. The bill I am sending you has been named the President's Pro-Life Act of 1988 to emphasize the urgent need to reduce the number of abortions in this country and to reaffirm life's sacred position in our nation. The findings that would underlie the mandate of the statute point out that abortion takes the life of a living human being, that there is no right to abortion secured by the Constitution, and that the Supreme Court erred in its decision in Roe v. Wade in failing to recognize the humanity of the unborn child. None are more powerless than the unborn. I urge you to pass this measure promptly and thereby join me in helping to protect their rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Did you notice Reagan's only exemption? There was just one. Unless the mother's life would be physically endangered. He did not say rape or incest pregnancies. However, this bill would not be passed. They did not pass it. It actually sought to be some kind of expansion or adjustment to the Hyde Amendment, Hyde, the Hyde Amendment, and that's still active today somewhat. It prevents federal funding for abortions. It was passed during the Ford presidency. Jimmy Carter, after Ford, who preceded Reagan and who is hailed as an exemplary Christian politician, personally opposed abortion. But politically, he supported the right to an abortion, which is pathetic. But it's really important to see how Reagan described everything on his way out of office. He referred to the sacredness of life and attacked the Roe decision the same way we did last week, that there is no constitutional right to abortion, that it failed to recognize the humanity of the unborn child. He was intentional in saying, none are more powerless than the unborn. Join me in helping protect their rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That was a shot at the due process and equal protection's justification that the Supreme Court balanced their Roe decision upon. Reagan's point, and mine last week, was that the unborn child is also due fair process and equal protection under the law because they also deserve, as human beings, their own right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So Trump is not accurate in saying he agrees with Reagan's exemptions. The exemptions would really come into play with George H.W. Bush when he ran in 1988, right after Reagan. He opposed abortion except in cases of rape, incest, or the endangerment of the mother's life. His opponent, Michael Dukakis, had zero problems with abortion. Well, he lost that election in glorious fashion. Bush Sr. got almost 80% of the electoral votes. There was only a little bit of change in 1992. George H.W. Bush maintained his abortion position, but Bill Clinton supported abortion rights with some limitations on late-term abortions. If you remember, the Clintons both used the phrase safe, legal, and rare when it came to abortions. Well, Clinton won almost 70% of the delegates that year. He would go on to face Bob Dole in 1996, who opposed abortion, and he also sought a constitutional amendment to ban it. Well, Clinton was reelected with over 70% of the electoral votes. George W. Bush defeated Al Gore, Clinton's vice president, in 2000. Bush supported the 3 exemptions. Bush Jr. maintained his position and defeated John Kerry in 2004. Kerry completely supported abortion rights. Well, then everything flipped in 2008. Obama runs on unbridled abortion. McCain ran on the 3 exemptions. Obama won. The same thing happened again in 2012. Obama completely supported abortion. Romney supported the 3 exemptions and lost. Now listen to this. Trump ran in 2016 opposing abortion and promising to overturn Roe v. Wade. Hillary repeated Bill's safe, legal, and rare line, but supported abortion, and she ultimately lost. Trump would go on to do exactly as he's mentioned repeatedly, what he promised to do. He installed 3, at least moderate, justices to the Supreme Court who would comprise half of that majority that overturned Roe v. Wade. Finally, and officially making abortion an issue left to federalism, not the federal government. So Ford didn't do anything, Carter didn't do anything, Reagan tried but failed, Bush Sr. didn't do anything, Clinton didn't do anything, Bush Jr. didn't do anything, Obama definitely didn't do anything, but Donald Trump, he was the first president to do something about it. Then something interesting happened. He ran against a man who began his senatorial career the same year that Roe v. Wade was adjudicated. That's right. Joe Biden became a senator the same month Roe v. Wade was decided. That's how old that bag of bones is and how long he's been a leech off the American people. Anyway, Trump maintained his pro or pro-er life position. Joe Biden's platform, like that of every Democrat before him, was pro-choice, but he specifically ran on supporting Roe v. Wade and opposing restrictions on abortion access. Now, we can have an argument some other day about whether he legitimately won or not, but that's not the discussion right now. In the end, Joe Biden would be the one to make his way into the Oval Office over a year after Trump left office. His promises were delivered, and Roe was overturned on June 24th, 2022. And tens of thousands of babies are alive today for that reason. They're toddlers now. Thank you, President Trump. Thank you. Now that brings us to the 5th reaction from that clip. And that's the point that Trump made about getting elected. He said, follow your heart, but you have to get elected because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. Now that brings us back to where we were last week. I've told you repeatedly over the last 47 episodes that Donald Trump is and was the most moderate candidate in this race. And for some reason, that has only clicked with voters just this week. For some bizarre reason, pro-lifers and Christians had an assumption that Trump was this far-right, right-wing, rock-ribbed conservative, especially on this subject. Listen, Donald Trump had several conservative policies, but he also had moderate policies and even some liberal policies. That's how he's always been. I mean, even before he ran for president in 2016, for goodness sake, he was a New York Democrat. The truth is that he's an old school Democrat who, like Elon Musk and Robert F. Kennedy and Tulsi Gabbard got sick of the corruptocrats in Washington, D.C. and ran to do something about it. And as a matter of fact, that's why he's so popular. He ran as the opposition to what he so poignantly dubbed the swamp, the entrenched bureaucracy, the lobbyists, the corrupt, self-serving political elites in Washington. That's what got him elected. Then America observed that fight for 4 years as the swamp resisted. In 2020, the story took a dramatic turn after relentless battles and back and forth when the swamp swallowed Trump's re-election campaign. America has watched the swamp oozing in expansion, taking victory laps for the last 4 years, and now a larger portion, a growing portion of Americans hope for a classic story of American redemption. Donald Trump surely counts his pro-life stance in 2020 as a factor in his loss. Not to mention the down-ballot losses he's observed since, where the trend is that the pro-life stance continues to be a divisive issue impacting success. Take a look at this infographic from the Wall Street Journal from March this year. The headline of this article was "Trump risks losing suburban women over abortion," with the subheading, "Wall Street Journal poll shows the issue is make or break for many of the swing state voters who decided the last two elections and could again in 2024. So these suburban women in swing states were asked, "What's the most important issue to you?" Look, nearly 40% of them said abortion over immigration, the economy, inflation, and ideology. Now listen to me, pro-lifers and Christians, which are supposed to be one and the same. Abortion is the most important issue to us as well, just for the complete opposite reason. But it's not for the majority of people. America is at war, and we have been for about 15 years. It's not like the Civil War of the 19th century. No, there aren't any cannons or gunfire, bayonets, or marching drums. This is an ideological war, a war of ideas, a war for America's future, its survival, and its identity, who we will be. This is a spiritual war of literal good versus evil. Wars never have a singular battle. Wars are a collection of campaigns, battles, and fronts. While I would bet you would agree with me that abortion is a battle of utmost importance and gravity, you must understand that it's one battle among many in the war swirling around us all. Our founding fathers inscribed with studious and wise precision the natural rights bestowed upon all humanity in our Declaration of Independence, in our Bill of Rights, and in our Constitution. They understood that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and property were fundamental rights given to us by the Almighty Creator, our God, the Lord above. They were even ordered so perfectly and in sequential perfection. Life is that most important divine right above all. Without life, there's nothing. Liberty, as I've said until I'm blue in the face, was seriously understood as the freedom, the unshackling to do that which was conducive to personal and communal virtue and liberty. Do you use or abuse your liberty to create more liberty, or deny yourself or your neighbor their liberty? It's not a license to do whatever thou wilt, but to do that which is promotive of good. Jefferson got the concept of happiness from Aristotle's use of the Greek word eudaimonia, which means flourishing, fulfillment, or well-being. These are the 3 or 4 things our forefathers wisely discerned as rights from God, not government. Abortion deprives the most deserving of their fundamental rights from their Creator. They're denied life, which denies them of liberty, which denies them of ever even being able to pursue happiness or flourishing. They're snuffed out. So abortion is a battle with overwhelming importance. But we must be keen to the other battles in the war at large and consider how each of these battles affect life, liberty, and happiness. There is the economic battle, which includes inflation and jobs, taxes, spending, and prices, which intertwines with other battles like the battle of immigration and the battle of national security. That is statistically the number one issue this election, the battle of the economy. Crime is another battle. Foreign policy is another fight. Sexual ideology is another battle. Civil liberties is another battle. To many people, climate is a battle. Healthcare is a battle. And every one of these are not simply political squabbles. They're components of spiritual warfare. Whether he knows it or not, and whether you like it or not, President Trump finds himself at the tip of this spear. He's clearly not a genuine Christian, regardless of what he says or how he panders, but in similar fashion, not identical, but in similar fashion, Trump has in many ways been like Cyrus the Great from Isaiah and 2 Chronicles and Ezra and Daniel. Benjamin Netanyahu even made the comparison. He's an unwitting conduit for God's redemptive work in America. Please listen to me. Don't check out. There are 20 battles raging all at once in this war. It's very easy to develop a myopic perception of the battle that you are personally engaged in and for which you devote a great deal of time and attention, but we must not allow ourselves an acute strategy for a multi-frontal war, because that's a losing strategy. That is what Trump means when he says, we've got to get elected. The sixth and final response I have to this clip is his attention to what our opponents are doing in the battle of abortion. He alludes to abortions in the third trimester, abortions in the final month of pregnancy, and even post-birth abortions. Now, even though I could show you evidence from numerous states like New York and Minnesota and California, etc., I'm going to show you a couple examples here of that to which Trump was referring, because the left denies this and gaslights Americans every time it comes up. So first, here's a clip from the Virginia State Legislature in January 2019.
So how late in the third trimester would you be able to do that?
You know, it's very unfortunate that our physicians, witnesses, were not able to attend today to speak specifically.
No, I'm talking about your bill. How late in the third trimester could a physician perform an abortion if he indicated it would impair the mental health of the woman?
Or physical health.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm talking about the mental health.
So, I mean, through the third trimester. The third trimester goes all the way up to 40 weeks.
Okay. But to the end of the third trimester.
Yep. I don't think we have a limit in the bill.
So, where it's obvious that a woman is about to give birth, she has physical signs that she is about to give a birth, would that still be a point at which she could request an abortion if she was so certified? She's dilating.
Mr. Chairman, that would be a decision that the doctor, the physician, and the woman would make.
I understand that. I'm asking
point.
if your bill allows that.
My bill would allow that, yes.
Full-term abortions under the guise of mental health. That woman, Kathy Tran, is still, to this day, a Democratic member in the Virginia House of Delegates. Now, the governor at that time, Ralph Northam, was asked about this then controversial position. Well, here's what he had to say. And you wouldn't be surprised to know that he took it even further.
If a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother.
Pro-lifers, Christians, and conservatives, you can clearly see the options before you. There's only two options. In the battle of abortion, do you want the leader who dealt a serious blow, the only serious leader that's dealt a serious blow to abortion, which has resulted in tens of thousands of living babies in nearly 18 states? Or do you want the leader whose party endorses full-term abortion and post-birth infanticide? Take your pick. Now remember, this is not a singular battle. We're in the middle of war. Wars are won by strategy, and strategy demands that we examine every front with serious scrutiny, that we allocate resources appropriately, and that we carefully pick and choose the whens and wheres of war. So hold on to that. Let's get back to the chain of events here. The DNC was Monday, August 19th, to Thursday, August 22nd. Speakers throughout the week made pointed attacks on Trump and abortion. Kamala Harris accepted the nomination on Thursday night, and you saw and heard what she said. The next day, Robert Kennedy Jr. endorses Donald Trump. The next day. And on that same Friday, August 23rd, Trump posted the following online. My administration will be great for women and the reproductive rights. 3 days later, on Monday, August 26th, Tulsi Gabbard endorsed Donald Trump for president. On Thursday, August 29th, we did our show that morning. That afternoon, Trump made two significant statements. Both of them were in regard to legislation in Florida, Trump's home state. Here's the first one.
Everyone does.
I
think everyone
Roe,
does, yeah.
and you want abortion to be a states' rights issue. In Florida, the state that you are a resident of, there's an abortion-related amendment on the ballot to overturn the 6-week ban in Florida. How are you going to vote on that?
Well, I think the 6 week is too short. It has to be more time, and so and I've told them that I want more weeks.
So you'll vote in favor of the amendment?
I am going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. Look, just so you understand, everybody wanted Roe v. Wade terminated for years, 52 years. I got it done. They wanted it to go back to the states. Exceptions are very important for me, for Ronald Reagan, for others that have navigated this very, very interesting and difficult event.
The upcoming election for Floridians will include amendments to their state constitution, which includes an amendment which would eliminate the 6-week abortion ban and essentially create an open field for second and third trimester abortions. Here's what the bill actually says. It's Florida Amendment 4, the Right to Abortion Initiative. A yes vote would add the following language to Florida's constitution. No law shall prohibit, penalize, delay, or restrict abortion before viability or when necessary to protect the patient's health as determined by the patient's health care provider. When asked how he would vote, Trump said, I think 6 weeks is too short. There has to be more time, and I've told them that I want more weeks. The reporter asked a second time, so you'll be voting for the amendment? Trump doesn't say yes. He says, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. That answer tells me that Trump had no idea what he was talking about, which is really bad on him, and his poor use of language here created a huge mess on the right side of this issue. Pro-lifers, understandably, went berserk. They understandably felt stabbed in the back. betrayed by the leader who had once served them so well. And I'm not going to read you the litany of responses, the thousands of responses that he got. But an unbelievable amount of pro-lifers put their support on the line over the 40 seconds of video that you just saw. Forget about his campaign in 2016. Forget about Gorsuch and Kavanaugh and Coney Barrett. Forget about the destruction of Roe. Forget about the 18 states in America which have outlawed abortion entirely. Forget about the numerous battles and the multifaceted war, the stakes of our civilization. None of that matters. Let's all respond in knee-jerk fashion and short-fused sensitivity with irrational thoughts and emotion. That sounds like a winning strategy. That sounds like a fantastic idea. Forget about the Democratic plan to make abortion an American right. Forget about their full-fledged, full-throated support of murdering babies moments away from birth or laying on a table in the moments after. No, they love the idea of cutting babies into pieces and sucking them out with a straw, or in the context of a third trimester baby, injecting them with poison. Yeah, what a great idea. Let's just give them the victory by our willing resignation. Great idea. So here's a good question. Is it better to lose because of principle? Or is it better to win because you realize there's more at stake than your principle? Trump's favorite book of all time is The Art of War by Sun Tzu, which says, "To fight and conquer in all your battles is not supreme excellence. Supreme excellence consists in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting." Last week, I showed you the statistics, the research, and the polling data to quite clearly make the case that both Republicans and Democrats are battling for the support of moderates and independents. Statistically, they comprise almost a third of the electorate. They are the key to victory in November. Now, in keeping with our analogy, the election in November is a key battle in the war, and we need additional support here. We need some sort of allied force to defeat the collective enemy. What does that mean? Because a different army might have differing tactics than us. They might have other ideas on how to be victorious in battle. We might even fundamentally disagree on certain issues. But our unity is necessary to the destruction of our shared common enemy. This is what Donald Trump is doing. He just needs to be more calculated in how he articulates things. And he needs to be prepared to answer questions with clarity so as to not create conservative infighting. The positions he's taken for the last couple years are progressively moderate. But this is what you see him doing with these abortion statements, the formation of a unity party with the help of RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, and more, with more to come, and with more notable headlines. He made his poorly worded statement in response about Florida's proposed Fourth Amendment on the same day, August 29th. Trump said this about in vitro fertilization.
I'm announcing today in a major statement that under the Trump administration, your government will pay for, or your insurance company will be mandated to pay for, all costs associated with IVF treatment, fertilization for women, IVF treatment. Because we want more babies, to put it very nicely. And for this same reason, we will also allow new parents to deduct major newborn expenses from their taxes, so that parents that have a beautiful baby will be able. So we're pro-family. Nobody's ever said that before. But the IVF treatments are expensive. It's very hard for many people to do it. and to get it. But I've been in favor of IVF right from the beginning.
Christians and pro-lifers are overwhelmingly opposed to the practice of in vitro fertilization for a few reasons. But the main reason is that it's very simply a cousin or a relative of the abortion industry. It is a statistical fact that nearly 80% of embryos, 80% of them, are indefinitely frozen and are ultimately destroyed. In other words, 8 out of 10 babies are murdered through the IVF process. That is why we oppose it, and there are even more reasons that I've mentioned before, but I'm not going to get into today. So that's the first problem we have with this. The second problem is that you want to use federal funding to pay for this? That is definitely not a conservative position. It's quite liberal, actually. It's socialist, using federal money, the people's money, to pay for something that murders 80% of its output? Trump's reasoning is to create more families. Well, that's a noble goal that we all admire, but there are other ways, natural ways and ethical ways of dealing with infertility and sterility. There's also adoption and fostering. However, the second half of what he said there is actually conservative. Why? Trump said his new administration would allow new parents to deduct major newborn expenses from their taxes. This is a great policy because it will encourage more families. It will address our population decline, our crisis, and it also eliminates or alleviates a fear which drives so many toward abortion, and that is the financial burden of bringing a child into the world. Ladies and gentlemen, can you not see the obvious moderation? What a cocktail of conservatism, liberalism, and moderatism. But that was August 29th. The next day, Friday, August 30th, Trump's campaign listened to the ire and the outcry of the pro-life movement and clarified his statements on Florida's Fourth Amendment. Long story short, he said, "I'll be voting no," which I believe validates what I said about him not even knowing what he was saying or not speaking clearly. The next day, on Saturday, August 31st, just keep in mind, all of this is just in the span of a couple weeks. So the next day on Saturday, August 31st, Trump said this about the proposed Third Amendment in the state of Florida concerning the legalization of marijuana. As everyone knows, I was and will be again the most respected law and order president in U.S. history. We will take our streets back by being tough and smart on violent and all other types of crime. In Florida, like so many other states that have already given their approval, personal amounts of marijuana will be legalized for adults with Amendment 3. Whether people like it or not, this will happen through the approval of the voters, so it should be done correctly. We need the state legislature to responsibly create laws that prohibit the use of it in public spaces so we don't smell marijuana everywhere we go, like we do in many of the Democrat-run cities. At the same time, someone should not be a criminal in Florida when this is legal in so many other states. We do not need to ruin lives and waste taxpayer dollars arresting adults with personal amounts of it on them, and no one should grieve a loved one because they died from fentanyl-laced marijuana. We will make America safe again. All right, so first of all, Trump does not encourage Florida voters to support Amendment 3. He simply states that it will pass because the majority of Floridians support it. Here's what the proposed amendment would add to Florida's Constitution. A yes vote supports legalizing marijuana for adults 21 years old and older and allowing individuals to possess up to 3 ounces of marijuana. And the amendment requires a supermajority of 60% to pass. I think most Christians would be opposed to this for the same reason a minority of us are opposed to alcohol, because the cons far outweigh the pros. Sure, we can have a debate about tax money. Trump is saying that we waste taxpayer dollars prosecuting marijuana offenders. In other words, he's saying that we would save money by legalizing marijuana. He also encourages there serious regulation on it. But here's what I think this is really about, and it falls in line with nearly everything we've discussed thus far. I've seen black conservatives talking this up because it will assuredly appeal to black voters who profess to be unfairly prosecuted on this subject in particular, which is the demographic with which Trump is down by nearly 40 points. Folks, all of it, is political strategy. As he said in the debate, he's trying to get elected. Since he knows he needs to pull as many people onto the battlefield and over to our side, like a politician and a successful businessman, he's making proverbial deals to amass an army that can't be defeated in November. Christians, your vote is not a sacrament. Voting for Donald Trump is not a promotion of his beliefs. It's not supporting abortion or IVF or pot smoking. It's literally opposing an evil world order that seeks to destroy us all. Not just our babies and families and churches and schools and lives. Voting for Donald Trump is not a compromise on Christian beliefs. So give your convictions and your conscience a rest. It also truly helps to realize that you're casting a vote against something vastly more horrific, much, much worse. In order to be victorious, we must learn from those Allied forces, D-Day, Operations Fortitude, and Overlord. Our strength and our chances of victory are found in unity, in coming together, joining forces like the Allies, and in using economy of force. The fight of abortion must and will continue. It's going to continue. That's where the enemy thinks we will attack. That's where they've set up camp. But their weak point is the Normandy of the economy, and the research proves it. So our best chance of liberation from this evil regime and ideological force is to focus our attention there. That's the important battle. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. A vote is not a Valentine. You aren't professing your love for the candidate. It's a chess move for the world you want to live in. I said this last week, and also said that the issue of abortion is not a political issue. It's a moral issue. It's a spiritual issue. Politicians do not solve spiritual problems. And wouldn't that be nice? But wouldn't it be awesome if our leaders addressed moral issues and spiritual disconnects? Goodness, that would be downright biblical and Christian. But that's not the reality in 2024. It's irrational and insurmountable. And you might say, well, Blake, where's your faith? Well, my faith is in Christ and not any politicians. What must we do then? Well, you've heard me talk about the root of the problem. Do you know why we have such a problem with abortion in America? Do you want to know why there continues to be school shootings in America? Radically perverse sexual ideology, rampant crime, drug abuse, divorce rates, declining marital rates, and childbirths. Do you know what the root problem is with every single bit of that? Think spirituality. Think spiritually. The root problem with all of that and all of us is that we're a messy bunch of broken sinners in desperate need of help. Now, if that is the root problem, and we attack the problem at its root, salvation and redemption grace, and carnal liberation. These are the remedies to the root problem offered to us through the work and the atoning sacrifice and the instructional message of Christ Jesus. But Christ is right now seated at the right hand of God. He's given us His helper in the meantime. If Jesus is in heaven, but His Spirit is with us, then addressing the root problem is sharing the remedy with those who are sick. Imagine if we did that, how different the world would be. So picture it. You have personally surrendered your life to Christ, and you've committed to live your life under His lordship. You commit to change, that you will no longer be who you once were, and the Spirit of Christ within you assists in that accomplishment. That journey and the process of sanctification makes you more and more and more like Jesus Christ. And then it's as if Christ is not afar off. He's in you, and He's reflected in your life and your personality, in everything you do. Let's broaden the lens a little bit. Imagine that all of those who profess to be Christian do the same exact thing. Instead of just saying, I'm a Christian, they actually deny themselves, take up their cross, and follow Christ. The inevitable outcome of that is that the church serves its purpose. It produces disciples and doctors. Disciples to share the good news, doctors to give sinners the remedy which only comes from Christ, the source of healing and cleansing. Notice that I didn't say the Christians bring their sickly neighbor to church as if the church is a hospital building. In fact, that's one of the core issues with the American church today. We have that totally backwards. But let's say we get it forwards. Let's say we have it forwards. We get it right. It starts with individual revival. It continues then to corporate revival. It is only at that point that we can be what I encourage you to be every single week, the light of the earth and the salt of the world. But the problem is that we don't do this. Individually, our lives are a mess. Christ is not first. We're not repentant. We're not in pursuit of holiness and righteousness. So we look and act and spend and pretend just like our unbelieving neighbors. Then we comprise our churches and our pulpits. The American church, in an effort to be more attractive, to get more money and to stuff more seats, replaced fellowship and worship and discipleship all for evangelism. So the church isn't doing anything towards Christian growth and development, preaching against sin, or challenging the believers to the high cost of following Jesus. And that's mostly because the pastors and preachers are the same as us. That is why we have rampant abortion, school shootings, sexual idolatry, rising crime and violence, drug abuse, marital destruction, and familial decimation. It's because of us. We are the problem. Christ is the solution. Donald Trump is not the solution, nor is Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, or J.D. Vance. Ron DeSantis isn't the solution. Your preacher is not the solution. You are not the solution. Christ is the solution. I'm going to continue to preach this scripture over and over and over until it sticks, but once again, let's examine the instructions for national healing given to King Solomon in 2 Chronicles chapter 7. God begins by saying, if I shut up the heavens so that there is no rain, or if I command the locust to devour the land, or if I send pestilence among my people. Stop right there. God is describing His judgment. He's warning them. Later in the same chapter, He warns that He will uproot them and will cast them out of His sight. But verse 13 speaks to economic judgment, That's what he means by the drought and the locusts. And pestilence describes a pandemic virus. Sound familiar? Let's read it again. Keep going. If I shut up the heavens so that there is no rain, or if I command the locust to devour the land, or if I send pestilence among my people, and my people who are called by my name humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, will forgive their sin, and will heal their land. Let's read that in reverse, one piece at a time. God can heal America. How will he do that? By the forgiveness of our sin. And why has he done that? Because he has heard our cries and our prayers and our requests to do so, to forgive us and to heal our land. What did it take for God to hear our prayers and forgive us and heal our land? Listen to me. Don't miss this. The people who are called by his name, the Christians, the Christ ones, they humbled themselves and turned from their wicked ways. Their wicked ways. It wasn't them telling other people to turn from their wickedness. They were humble and turned from their own wickedness. The only way to have the humility necessary for repentance is to relentlessly seek God's face. Psalm 105 verse 4 says to seek his face always, all the time. What does that mean? The Hebrew word for face there also is translated to the word presence. So it means that you're spending as much time with God as possible. That means pray without ceasing. 1 Thessalonians 5:17. That means relentlessly spending time with the God of the Word in the Word of God. The Word become flesh, like we see in John chapter 1. Look at 2 Timothy 3:14 through 17. All Scripture is inspired by God and profitable for teaching, for reproof, for correction, for training in righteousness, so that the man of God may be adequate, equipped for every good work. In Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 6 through 11, God says to his people, these words which I am commanding you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your sons and shall talk of them when you sit in your house and when you walk by the way and when you lie down and when you rise up. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand and they shall be as frontals on your forehead. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. In other words, God's word should be everywhere. God's word should be instilled within us. We should memorize and internalize it. We should raise our children in it. We should talk about it all the time from morning until evening. We should post it everywhere we can. And then the result is, God tells them what will happen. Then it shall come about, when the Lord your God brings you into the land which he swore to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give you great and splendid cities which you didn't build, and houses full of all good things which you did not fill, and hewn cisterns which you did not dig, vineyards and olive trees which you did not plant, and you eat and are satisfied. Similarly, look at how David distinguishes the man who seeks God's face to the rest of humanity in the first Psalm. How blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, nor stand in the path of sinners, nor sit in the seat of scoffers, but his delight is in the law of the Lord. And in his law he meditates day and night. He will be like a tree firmly planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in its season, and its leaf does not wither, and whatever he does, he prospers. The wicked are not so, but they are like chaff which the wind drives away. Therefore, the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For the Lord knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked will perish. Consider this next verse from Psalm 119, verse 9, which shows us, like all the scripture I've shown you so far, how instrumental seeking the Lord's face, spending time with Him, is to bearing the fruit of repentance, turning from wickedness. It says, "How blessed are those whose way is blameless, who walk in the law of the Lord. How blessed are those who observe His testimonies, who seek Him with all their heart. They also do no unrighteousness. They walk in His ways. I shall give thanks to you with uprightness of heart when I learn your righteous judgments. How can a young man keep his way pure? By keeping it according to your word. With all my heart I have sought you. Do not let me wander from your commandments. Your word I have treasured in my heart, that I may not sin against you." I think that'll do it for now, but I hope you understand what I'm saying to you. Christ is the solution to all our problems, but the solution must be applied to me first, then to us, then to them. That's how we fight the good fight. That's how we combat the evils of abortion, immorality, idolatry, etc., by attacking the problems at their spiritual roots. While we do that, we've got an election to win. So let's do it. That's going to do it for me. What'll it be next time? We'll see. For now, go and be the salt and light you were meant to be, and we'll see you next time on We the Free. Thank you for watching today. Listen, I want to make sure that you stay informed on the news and the biblical response to it, so do yourself and us a favor and hit the subscribe button before you go. And then we would love for you to check out WeTheFreeShow.com to grab yourself some merch to spread the word about We the Free. And we're also going to put a video on screen that we think you'll like. Now, go and be that salt and light, and we'll see you next time.